Hello, my name is Nela Donato, and I'm a multimedia creator from Rijeka in Croatia. I work as a freelance graphic designer. I'm specialized in brand identity design. If you're a part of the Croatian fandom, you've probably seen some of my work before. I also draw, paint, and create digital photo montages. And I write lots of nonfiction, like articles on business, design, and self-help. And so far, I've published one book, The Human-Centered Brand, in 2018. I'm currently working on my next book, Creativity Keys, and this talk is like a short version of the things that I believe are important for any new and aspiring creative to know. The question I'll try to answer today is how to start creating if you're not really sure you have what it takes to be a creator. Because I know for a fact that many people experience this, and I have experienced it, and my friends experienced it. It is really common among creatives, and it's a challenge that can be overcome. The first thing that you need to keep in mind if you want to create is that your desire to create is valid. You have a right to create whatever you want. You don't need anyone's permission or a blessing from a master or a teacher or a successful creator. And no one can really grant you this permission but yourself. When I was in high school, I stopped drawing for a couple of years because I had this silly idea that I wasn't talented enough because there were some other people who were more skilled than me. And so I just quit. But then a couple of years later, I met an artist who I respected and trusted, who told me that I do have what it takes, that I have the skill, and that I could actually accomplish something if I just kept trying. So this changed my life. But I was really lucky to have received that kind of feedback. But what if I've never met this person? What if we never had this conversation? How long would it have taken me to realize that this is something that I want to do? And thinking back, I could have spent years neglecting my desire to create because I just thought that I'm not talented. So if you don't have someone in your life to tell you that you do have what it takes, to encourage you, to support you, like, of course, it's easier when you do. It's easier when your parents and teachers telling you you're really good from an early age. But if you don't have that, then it's time for you now as an adult to claim this desire to create for yourself, to forget everything that other people have told you in the past that you might be still thinking about, which was really not constructive for you. Maybe something bad you heard about your work while you were in school. Just leave it aside and start fresh with your own inner permission to do what you want to do. While we are mentioning talent, I want to emphasize that it's all about the work you put in and not raw talent. Talent is not what you think it is. All children start equally capable of creating, and the creative urge is something that is universal across the ages, across the cultures. I want to share something with you, a quote from a book by Linda Berry from Making Comics. "We draw before we are taught. We also sing, dance, build things, act, and make up stories long before we are given any deliberate instruction beyond exposure to the people around us doing things. Everything we have come to call the arts seems to be in almost every 3-year-old. When these capacities are absent in a young child, we worry about them. There seems to be an understanding that the thing we call the arts has a critical function for kids, though we may have a hard time saying just what it is, especially if we call it art. But it existed before the word for it existed. Not just generally, but for each of us. We were doing all of these things before we knew what it was we were doing. It seemed to be something coming from the inside." All children start from the same skill level. Here's a couple of my drawings. This is about age 3. This is about age 4 or 5. It's not remarkable. Every kindergartner can draw the same way. But I kept drawing until adulthood, whereas most people stop. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's the same with writing. For years, I've been writing a personal journal, and this was a way for me to practice nonfictional writing before I was prepared to publish my first blog. And it has led me now to writing books and multiple articles and videos. So personal practices like that really help. Talent is really about curiosity, the pull towards creativity that you can either be raised with or discover later in life. Many famous artists were raised by creative parents or grandparents. For example, Leopold Mozart was a musician who taught both of his children, Wolfgang Amadeus and Maria Anna, to be musicians. Pablo Picasso's father, José Ruiz y Blasco, was an artist and an art teacher. So these talented individuals that became so good so young actually had training from a very early age because they grew up in artistic families. And those of us who did not have a bit to catch up with, because it's not about some mysterious genetic component. It's not like a superpower that you are born with and then suddenly you can do amazing things. It's really about putting in the hours, practicing daily. And of course, if you start very young, then by the time you're an adult, you get excellent because you've had a lot of practice. But those of us who discover their talent at an older age have a bit to catch up with. But it can be done. It can be achieved. There's really nothing mysterious about talent. And I assure you that you do have enough talent to get started in any creative endeavor that you want. It's never too late for you to start because it's not a contest. We've all heard about child prodigies that started very early and reached their peak before they were 40 and then died. But there are very many people who have started in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. And I want to share a couple of examples with you to encourage you to start no matter what your age is. Writer Anne Leckie published her debut Hugo and Nebula award-winning novel Ancillary Justice at age 47. Writer Bram Stoker published Dracula when he was 50. Writer Richard Adams published Watership Down when he was 52. Singer Charles Bradley signed his first record deal at age 62. Anna Mary Robertson Moses, known as Grandma Moses, started painting at age 76 and had her first exhibition at age 80. Painter Carmen Herrera sold her first painting at age 89. Writer Lorna Page published the thriller A Dangerous Weakness when she was 93. Painter Lung Kunan started painting at age 95 and received immediate acclaim and lived to be 108. Our lifespan and health is increasing, so statistically, you have many, many years ahead of you to achieve something, and the best time to start is now. I want to get realistic because this is something that can cause problems for creatives. You need to lower your expectations when you're getting started because your first works won't be masterpieces. Most things you create in the beginning will suck. And that is okay because everyone sucks in the beginning. That's just a part of the journey that everyone needs to go through. You can't skip that. And I know that when you're looking at other people's art, that you're going to compare yourself probably to some of the more successful creators, and that can harm your self-esteem because those creators that are more successful, more accomplished, or even just slightly a bit ahead of you. Maybe they're not super successful, but they were doing this for a while. They don't show you everything that they're making. That is called curation. Most people show only the type of work that they're very satisfied with, that they're proud of. And the things that they're not so happy with, that didn't turn out so great, they don't show that to you. That remains hidden in their sketchbooks and their journals and, stashed on their computers where nobody else can see it. So don't compare your work in progress to somebody's, curated feed, because they have been doing that for a while, and your only point of comparison should be your previous work. You need to see that you are making progress from the week before, the month before, the year before, 10 years before. That is how you know that you're improving. But comparing to other people can be very counterproductive, especially when you're only getting started. The more you work, the less you'll suck. But progress is not linear. It starts off somewhat linear, you see lots of progress in the beginning, but then occasionally you plateau and you may not know why. It just seems like you stop making progress despite all your practice, and it's discouraging. But then something clicks and you make a sudden jump. Other times you may dip because you haven't practiced in a while and so you got a bit rusty. But if you start practicing again regularly, then you're going to go back to the level where you left off and even make progress as you keep practicing. Another expectation you need to let go of is that of audience reception and financial rewards. Some people will love what you do, and some people won't. Some publishers will love your ideas and they may be interested in publishing them, and some publishers may not. Rejections don't mean that your work is worthless. Harry Potter was rejected by 12 publishers before it was finally sold. And that's more of a norm than an exception. Success is not a function of how good your work is, but a result of many factors, some of which you can't control. Having industry connections is quite helpful, and that's why many people decide to move to a cultural center such as New York or Los Angeles or London or Paris, wherever the thing is happening. And they hope to rub shoulders with people in the industry that might kind of give them a little push so they can, get into the industry. But that doesn't always happen. Some people move and don't manage to meet the right people and get the right kind of project. And you can succeed from anywhere. You don't have to leave your hometown. Thankfully, thanks to the internet, now we can do work from anywhere, and a lot of people are succeeding who are coming from very small communities, very isolated communities. It can still be done. So those are the things that can be predicted. You really can't predict how well your work will be received. And you need to also take into consideration the fact that your work may not have mainstream appeal. It may never reach a wider audience because it's just too weird to it's for the larger audience to accept that and to like it. And it has happened many times in the history that some artists were just, ahead of their time, and their work only received acclaim after their death, which is tragic and really unfortunate, but it just happens because, that's what creativity is like. Don't make wealth and fame a condition of your love for your creative work, because that is a recipe for disappointment. Your passion and dedication for your craft must come from inside of you. And this will help you move forward regardless of audience feedback and whether your work is selling or not. It's going to help you to find fulfillment and find enjoyment in your work year after year, even if outward success is not happening, which, is a reality that we must be prepared for. For some of us, the best we can hope for is just to have a job that allows us enough free time and energy so we can keep doing our creative work in our free time. And, maybe that's the best we can do, and that should be enough. If you love your creative work, even when it doesn't pay, then you really love it. If you love the money and fame that comes from work, then you don't really love the work itself. You love the idea of being a famous artist, but you don't maybe love the day-to-day of being a creating artist. And the reality of being an artist is creating even when no one else cares. If you want to create for the right reasons, then here are the steps on how to get started. The first step is to eliminate distractions. Get off social media as often as you can. Allow yourself to get bored. Boredom is a fertile ground for creative ideas. So try to get bored as often as you can. So you can, for example, take a walk just alone in quiet, not listening to podcasts or anything. Just walk and think. Think about your craft, think about ideas, think about the stories you want to tell. And, maybe you get inspired and then you can write your ideas down. Or just sit on the couch and put on some music that will not distract you too much and just doodle or write notes, just a couple of minutes. It doesn't have to take long. So that's kind of how you create the space for new creative ideas to arise. Now, of course, for some people, it may be hard to find this free, uninterrupted time, especially if you have very small family members like children who need your attention. So if there's any possibility that you can get some childcare at least once a week, that someone can, take any worry and obligation away from you so you can kind of sit and focus and just be with your own thoughts, that would help a lot. I know that many people have maybe just an hour a week that they're completely alone because, their kids went out to see a cousin or something, and that's all the time they have, and that's enough. That can be enough for some people. If you ride public transportation when you're going to work, that can be a great opportunity to just think. Even if you don't have, if you have a place to sit down and write and draw, that would be great. But if you don't, you can just stand and look out the window. Unfortunately, many people waste this time by looking into their phone. And when you're looking into your phone, that you are not leaving this space to think. So I recommend that instead of looking into your phone, look out the window and just daydream. I've had some of my best ideas on long bus rides, so I really recommend that. The second step is to create a small habit. Find a time in your day when you don't have a lot of obligations and just reserve this tiny pocket of time for a creative habit that you can sustain over a longer period of time. Now, many people recommend that you wake up earlier in the morning. I'm not a fan of that. I prefer working in the evenings. So, maybe when you're relaxing in front of a TV or something. But really, you need to try out to see what works best for you, because this really depends on your lifestyle and your obligations and what kind of a person you are. If you're a late riser or an early riser, that can affect your routine a great deal. And the trick with this is to start very small. So just 10 to 15 minutes of sitting down with a notebook or some other form when you're gonna write out your notes. Maybe it's a voice recorder or something else. And just think and write down any notes you might have. And keep it very short so you know that you're going to be able to do it every day. And this is crucial, because when it is very easy for you to do, then you're actually gonna do it. But if you say, oh, I have to do it for half an hour or an hour, then you may be reluctant to do it on some days, and then your habit is just gonna fold over. You're not gonna be able to do that every day. But there are going to be days when you will feel this pull to go for longer than 15 minutes. And when that happens, just go with it. Because you need to ride that wave. You need to do it when you're pulled. And just keep going as long as you feel like it. Don't push yourself too hard, but keep it going while you have the energy. But the point here is that if you don't get started, then that pull to work longer may not happen, because starting is the most difficult part. So if you make it a habit that you never miss, it's easier to build your practice on top of that small habit. The third step is to make a commitment. Workshops and classes work great because they create this container for you to show up at a certain time, in a certain place, to get the lesson. And also you get assignments that you have to complete that by a certain date that another person will go into examine and give you some feedback. So that kind of forces you to show up. And it's really hard to create this at home when you don't have that kind of outside accountability to show up. So what you can do is to join an online class or an online workshop, even if it's a free one, something that lots of people do, like some kind of a public class or a public workshop. I'm sure there's lots of that on YouTube. And you can just kind of find an accountability group online that you can join, or you can join an online challenge. Examples are NaNoWriMo or Inktober or Advent of Code. I'm sure that pretty much every creative endeavor has a kind of a challenge that you can join. There's the 100-day project, which is for any kind of creative work, so you can join it even if it's not specific to your type of craft. So just find a way to commit to showing up regularly, even if you have to create some kind of an outside container, even if you have to rely on someone else to call you out on that. The fourth step is to connect with other creators. If you know other people in your geographic area that are doing the thing that you want to be doing, connect with them on social media and see if they may be interested in, going for a socially distant walk with a cup of coffee to go, so you can talk about this thing that you both love. And that can be a great introduction. I mean, they can introduce you to their friends and their community. You can maybe go to community events once those become available again. So that's a great way to kind of put a foot into a community that already exists out there. And I'm sure it exists because all kinds of communities exist for people who do the same thing that you want to do. If you don't have anyone nearby, or you just don't know where to meet them, find online communities. There's many of them for all kinds of crafts, maybe on Facebook or on Discord or Slack or Meetup. So there's many websites and forums where you can join and ask people questions and learn from other members who may be a bit ahead of you. But I also recommend that you try to find a group, whether it's online or in person, of people who are also early in their journey, because you're going to be sharing a lot of the same challenges. And it's great when you have someone to confide in who knows what you feel like and who knows what you're going through. So having that kind of a huddle or a group of people who is helping each other, so you're going to be provide each other support and encouragement and share goals, so you can kind of grow together into the same direction. And you can arrange something like a group on Facebook or on Slack or any other medium that you like, where you can have regular meetings or post stuff, post something that you did and then critique each other's work, and whatever you want to do that you think would be supportive. So if you don't know anyone, ask other people if they may know someone who is in the same predicament in you that they can introduce you to, or maybe just publish a post and ask, I'm looking for pals who want to go on this journey with me, and see who contacts you. Very amazing things can happen when you just make the first step and put in a request to the internet for people to meet and talk about this topic that you love. Mentors can be super helpful in your career, but you need to be ready for a mentor. You need to show to your mentor that you're worth investing in, that you're gonna make good use of the advice that they give you. So you can prove that with a track record of regular work that you've been creating and publishing. A great way to meet mentors or potential mentors is to attend their workshops. Because when you work with someone, especially in a small group, you get to know them and they get to know you. And then when you contact them with a question, they already know who you are, and they're very likely to want to help you. More likely than if they had no idea who you are and were just a random person asking for their help. Now, if you do want to ask a successful creative person about things that interest you, you can reach out to them through email or messages, but be respectful of their time. Don't ask basic questions that you can Google, and don't bombard them with a bunch of questions that they're gonna have to spend a lot of time on. Just be brief and very focused and specific when you're asking for information that they can give you, because they can't teach you everything they know over email, and they probably don't have time to meet with you in person or online, because creative people, especially that have had a bit of success, are quite busy with lots of other things. So, don't get offended if they don't take you up on your invitation to meet with them. But just ask something that you really want to know, that you think they might give you a brief response to, and don't do it too often. Maybe you can contact the same person a couple of times, but try not to do it more than every couple of months, because then they may find you a bit annoying if you just want that much of their time. These 4 steps are enough to get started. As you progress, you will need knowledge on how to improve your craft and promote your work and sell your work. But for now, focus on just having fun with your creative work and dreaming up ideas. Don't start worrying too soon about these advanced things. Just leave it aside until you are solid and confident in your creative practice. I want to close with an idea that I think is quite powerful and encouraging when things get tough. And believe me, things do get tough sometimes. Why do we bother to create if we won't necessarily get rewarded by other people? If success is not guaranteed or even likely? The truth is that we don't really understand why we want to do this so much. Any attempt would be just rationalizing something that is a very irrational process. I think the best we can say about it is that we get a lot of emotional fulfillment from the creative process. It gives us a sense of accomplishment, of growth, of connection, of pleasure, of joy. There is just so many positive qualities that we can derive from the creative process that it makes it worth it, even if nothing happens. Like, even if we don't get published, even if we don't sell our work, it still keeps us going, and it invites us to come back to it every day. And the creative urge is something that is bigger than any of us, really, bigger than all of us. It's something that connects us to a lineage of millions of people who came before us over thousands and thousands of years, that the human race has been creating something on this planet, and that has lasted a very long time. So someone who loves to paint and draw is continuing the tradition started by the unnamed artists who painted on cave walls. When you tell stories, you continue the work of the first storytellers who entertained their tribe by the campfire. When you sculpt, you continue the work of the first clay figurine makers. It's the same for dance and music and crafts and games, like everything people are doing. Because ordinary people have been creating things for themselves and for their families and for their communities since the dawn of history. Really, we don't even know how long that has been going on, because we don't have written proof of these things in many cases. But we know that it's important because we just keep doing it and it just won't stop. It's a very powerful force in a part of human nature. And this legacy of creativity and craftsmanship, it's big, it's huge, but you're worthy of it. Don't doubt for a second that you can't continue this legacy, because I'm sure that you can. Being called to create is a tremendous privilege, and I really do hope that you will accept that call. Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this talk and want more of the same, check out my video podcast series, Nella's Art Chat. You can subscribe to it on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Just search for Nella's Art Chat. My blog, Nella Donato Art and Design, has lots of articles and videos, not only about creativity and the arts, but also the business and marketing side of creative careers. So if you're interested in the money-making side of creativity, definitely check it out. And if you speak Croatian, check out Kreativna, a community blog where you can read articles, not just by yours truly, but also other creative women who are sharing their experiences. Thanks again for watching. If you have any questions about this talk, I'll be available to chat for another couple of minutes. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Talk to you soon.